I'm a huge fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format. Tonight, we're talking about a place where millions of us spend a huge portion of our lives, the workplace. By day, it's familiar and safe. But when you're alone after hours, the ordinary can turn unsettling. We're diving into 3 true stories of people who discovered their empty workplaces weren't as deserted as they thought. So turn down the lights, get comfortable, and maybe check over your shoulder one last time. Let's get started. Tonight, we delve into the unsettling world of the night shift, where shadows dance and the veil between realities thins. Our first story is about Frank, a former military man hardened by experience, seeking the quiet solitude of a night shift security job. He thought he'd seen it all, but the darkness held secrets he couldn't have imagined. The job was at a modern office complex, a gleaming structure of steel and glass, built on the site of a burned-down sanatorium, a place where the echoes of the past were buried, or so they thought. Frank's job was simple, or so it seemed, a routine designed to lull him into a false sense of security. Patrol the building, ensuring no unauthorized personnel roam the halls after hours. Monitor cameras, watching for any sign of intrusion or disturbance. A silent guardian, overseeing the empty offices. And keep things secure, a promise to the tenants that their property was safe in his hands. Little did he know, the threat wasn't one he could see or touch. For weeks, it was uneventful. The silence was broken only by the hum of the fluorescent lights and the occasional creak of the building settling. One night, while walking the 4th floor, a floor known for its strange drafts and cold spots, Frank heard a soft footstep behind him. A sound so faint it could have been his imagination, but it sent a shiver down his spine. He spun around. Nothing, just a long, empty corridor stretching before him, swallowed by shadows. Back at his desk, the unease lingered. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He rewound the security footage, hoping to find some explanation, some rational reason for the sound. He saw himself stop and look, his face etched with confusion, searching for the source of the noise. But no one else was there. The camera showed only an empty hallway, mocking his senses. Then, on the live feed, a new anomaly. Something that couldn't be explained by faulty wiring or a trick of the light. A coffee mug in the 3rd floor break room, sitting innocently on a table, slid off a table and shattered, as if pushed by an unseen hand. The sound echoed in the empty room. No one was there. The break room was deserted, the only evidence of the event, the shattered ceramic on the floor. Frank's nerves spiked. The rational explanations he clung to began to crumble. He called out on his radio, his voice trembling slightly, seeking reassurance from his colleagues, but only static answered. A wall of white noise, isolating him in the growing dread. He forced himself to investigate, his military training battling against the primal fear rising within him. The break room was empty, the air thick with an unnatural stillness, except for the broken mug, a stark reminder that something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, a whisper brushed his ear, a cold breath against his skin. He spun, flashlight shaking, the beam cutting through the darkness, revealing nothing. But the hallway was empty, utterly, terrifyingly empty. Overwhelmed by dread, a sense of being hunted, Frank ran for the stairs, abandoning his post, driven by a fear he couldn't control. Not stopping until he reached the lobby, the only place in the building that felt remotely safe. On the monitors, he saw something that confirmed his deepest fears. A shadowy, featureless figure. A being of pure darkness glided down the 3rd floor hallway. A silent predator stalking its prey, right where he'd just been. A chilling reminder of how close he had come to something unknown. It faded into darkness, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared, as if it had never existed, leaving no trace but the lingering sense of dread. Frank spent the rest of his shift, a prisoner of his own fear, in the brightly lit lobby, seeking solace in the artificial light, clutching his flashlight, his only weapon against the unseen. Jumping at every sound, his senses heightened, expecting the darkness to reach out and claim him. When morning came, painting the sky with the promise of a new day, he quit on the spot, unable to spend another minute in that haunted place, never telling his boss the real reason, fearing ridicule or disbelief. He knew he hadn't been alone that night, that something else shared the building with him. Something ancient and unseen, something that defied explanation, had shared his shift, a silent observer in the darkness. Sometimes the past lingers, clinging to the places where it once thrived, refusing to be forgotten, in the places we think are safe, in the sterile environments of modern life. And sometimes it watches, waiting for the opportune moment to reveal itself. Our next story comes from Maria, a woman who worked the graveyard shift, ensuring the city's offices were spotless for the next day's hustle. She was a late-night cleaner at a small Chicago law office, a place filled with legal documents and the lingering scent of ambition. For over a year, her shifts were peaceful, a quiet routine of dusting, vacuuming, and emptying trash bins under the soft glow of the office lights. The only sounds were the hum of the cleaning equipment and the distant city noises filtering through the windows. But that tranquility shattered one Tuesday night. A night that would forever change how she viewed those empty offices. While vacuuming the plush carpet in one of the partners' offices, a task she'd performed countless times before, something felt different. Maria heard a heavy thud, a sound that cut through the hum of the vacuum cleaner and sent a shiver down her spine. It sounded like a book dropping, a large, weighty tome hitting the floor with a resounding impact. She immediately turned off the vacuum, the sudden silence amplifying the pounding of her heart. She listened intently, straining to hear any other sound. Nothing. Only the eerie silence of the empty office building at night. Cautiously, she made her way to Mr. Miller's office, the room where she thought the sound had originated. There, on his meticulously organized desk, she found a family photo lying face down. The glass reflecting the dim light of the room. She was sure it had been upright just minutes before when she dusted the desk. A wave of unease washed over her. Then, as she stood there, frozen in place, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. They were slow, deliberate, measured steps, as if someone was carefully making their way down the corridor. But they weren't her own. She was the only one who was supposed to be there. Heart pounding in her chest, she peeked out from the office doorway, her eyes scanning the dimly lit hallway. The corridor was empty, stretching out before her into the darkness. But despite the emptiness, the feeling of being watched, of being observed by unseen eyes, was overwhelming, pressing down on her like a physical weight. Maria tried to regain her composure and finish her work, telling herself it was just her imagination playing tricks on her in the dead of night. But then, a shadow flickered at the very edge of her vision, a fleeting movement that she couldn't quite explain. It was a tall, thin silhouette, a dark and indistinct form that seemed to stretch and distort in the low light. And then, it was gone, slipping silently behind a towering bookshelf that lined one wall of the library. That was enough. The fear that had been simmering within her finally boiled over. She abandoned her cleaning cart, leaving behind her supplies and equipment, and ran. She fumbled with her keys, her hands shaking so violently that she could barely manage to unlock the heavy office door. Finally safe in her car, she locked the doors and took a deep, shuddering breath. She stared back at the dark, imposing windows of the office building, her heart pounding in her chest like a trapped bird. She never returned to that office, the memory of that terrifying night forever etched in her mind. She quit the next day, unable to shake the feeling that something malevolent resided within those walls. Later, she learned a chilling detail about the building's history. A founding partner had died unexpectedly in the office many years ago. His body was found the next morning by the cleaning crew, slumped over his desk in the very office where Maria had experienced her terrifying encounter. Maria became convinced that what she had experienced that night was not a figment of her imagination. She believed she'd encountered his restless spirit, forever bound to the place where he had met his untimely end. His ghost was still pacing the halls, reliving his final moments in the dimly lit corridors of the old law office. Some places never truly let go of their past, holding on to the echoes of events long gone. And sometimes the past, with all its unresolved emotions and lingering energies, doesn't let go of us. So, the next time you find yourself alone at work, especially late at night, remember Maria's story and consider that you might not be as alone as you think. There might be more present than just you. Our final story comes to us from Kevin, a young man who experienced something truly unsettling during his college years. It's a tale that blurs the line between reality and nightmare, leaving you to question what lurks just beyond the veil of our perception. He was a college student working the graveyard shift to make ends meet, a common story for many trying to juggle education and financial stability. His workplace was a remote gas station, miles from any town, a lonely beacon of light in the vast expanse of the night. The kind of place where silence hangs heavy and every creak and groan of the building seems amplified. Most nights were uneventful, a slow trickle of truckers and late-night travelers stopping for fuel and snacks. The hum of the refrigerators and the occasional crackle of the radio were the only companions during those long, solitary hours. That is, until one particularly foggy July night, when the ordinary gave way to the extraordinary. The fog was unusually thick, blanketing the landscape and turning the world outside into a swirling gray abyss. Kevin noticed a figure standing by the farthest pump, shrouded in the mist, almost blending into the fog itself. It was motionless, unnervingly so, just staring into the fog as if waiting for something to emerge from its depths. There was no car parked nearby, no sign of any vehicle, just this solitary figure standing silently in the oppressive fog. He called out over the intercom, his voice echoing in the stillness, but there was no response, only the persistent hum of the gas station lights and the rustling of the wind through the fog. Then, slowly, deliberately, the figure turned, its movements stiff and unnatural. As it turned, Kevin could make out a pale, featureless face, illuminated by the dim gas station lights. It had no eyes, no mouth, no nose, just a smooth, blank oval where a face should have been. Kevin's instincts screamed danger, every fiber of his being urging him to flee. He hovered over the panic button, his heart pounding in his chest, unsure whether to press it and alert the authorities, or if that would only make things worse. The figure glided toward the store, its movements fluid and unnatural, as if it were floating rather than walking. It stopped inches from the glass door, its blank face staring directly at Kevin. It pressed a long, pale hand to the glass, the skin almost translucent in the dim light. The glass fogged instantly with its touch, leaving a ghostly handprint on the surface. It stood there, motionless, studying Kevin in silence, its presence radiating an aura of cold dread. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished, melting back into the fog, as if it were nothing more than a figment of Kevin's imagination. All that remained was a faint, chilling handprint on the glass, a testament to the encounter. The police were called. They arrived and searched the area, but found nothing. No footprints in the soft earth, no discarded objects, no evidence to suggest anyone had been there at all. Even more disturbingly, the security cameras showed nothing, the monitors displaying only static and the swirling fog. Kevin finished his shift in a state of shock, barely able to process what he had witnessed. He quit the next day, unable to shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the entity might return. He vowed to never work nights again, the memory of that faceless figure forever etched into his mind. To this day, he still can't explain what he saw, or what it wanted. Sometimes, the darkness brings visitors, entities that exist on the fringes of our reality, that don't belong in our world, creatures born of shadow and fear. And sometimes they find us, seeking us out in our most vulnerable moments, when we're most alone, when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest. For Kevin, that faceless entity, that silent observer in the fog, was a nightmare made real, a glimpse into a reality that should remain hidden. And it's still out there, lurking in the shadows, somewhere in the dark, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to cross its path. That's the end of our journey into the dark corners of the workplace. These stories remind us that fear can find us anywhere, even in places we think we know. So, what do you think? Were these just tricks of minds? Or did Frank, Maria, and Kevin truly encounter something beyond explanation? Share your thoughts and your own stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit like and subscribe for more strange, dark, dear guys from Chasms Light Up and Right.